My husband was called Brian. We'd been married for 60 years last November, and he was 84 when he actually died. But he was struggling for quite a few years, but certainly the last 4. He had exacerbation, which means that we had to call the paramedics, and that happened quite a few times. In June 2019, he got over it, and in the summer, we thought we'd have a long time left together. We were singing in a group in Morrison's Cafe, carols just before Christmas. It was a wonderful day, and shortly after that, he had another exacerbation, and we had to call the paramedics. But this is just after Christmas in January 2020. Yeah, he got over that after having antibiotics, but it didn't last very long. And on the 10th of February, he was taken by ambulance to hospital in Boston, where he was treated for yet another exacerbation. And the doctors said he could stay in hospital overnight, or he could come home. But we chose for him to come home. On the 11th of February, we had to go to a speed awareness course. I'd been a naughty girl. And while Brian wasn't very well, I didn't want to leave him. So I brought him. And he had to sit outside the room. The following morning, he said, "I don't want to go on like this," because he was struggling to breathe. He started crying, but he continued to speak. He got up to go to the toilet, and as he fell to the floor, I realised he had a big problem. I caught him, and there he died in my arms. But I couldn't say goodbye, because I think he died in that moment. So I sent for the paramedics. Obviously, later that morning, it was declared he had died. My big problem was the fact of the speed awareness course. I felt it was my fault. If we hadn't, or I'd have taken him to the course. That's really hard to live with now. A big problem for me, it was the 12th of February when he died. There wasn't really much sign of COVID on the horizon because nothing had happened in Britain. We didn't get a death certificate for some time because there was an error at our surgery, and the funeral was postponed for 7 weeks. As a result of that, on the 30th of March, we only had 5 people attending the funeral. Brian's family couldn't come because of the COVID. There were more people there from the funeral parlour. My son came, my nephew. But that was really, really hard to deal with. My problem after this, I was planning to do lots of things. I was planning to join clubs and to get out and make that effort. But with COVID, everything was cancelled. My neighbours were great at the start. They were really kind. But again, because of the COVID, they stayed in their houses. Fortunately, I can walk. So I made that effort to get out. On the 29th of February, it was my 80th birthday. It only comes round every 4 years. But what do? Brian had just died. And then was the problem of what do we do with the ashes? I didn't want to do that on my own, but I knew my son would help me. But Brian was an aviation enthusiast, and there's a club, the aviation club at Hull Beach, and they gave us permission for the ashes to be scattered there. My son will come with me at a later date when all the COVID regulations have been lifted. And what else I had done, Brian was passionate about Spitfires, and I had his name written on the side of a Spitfire at the Cetra Museum. I was supposed to go and see that this weekend, but it got cancelled because of the COVID. Every day now, when I go out, I talk to Brian's picture. I say hello to him in the morning. When I go down the street, I tell him I'm going out for a walk. And when I come back in the house, I talk to his picture again. And I say, I'm back now, Brian. This really helps to lift my morale.